Thank you for joining us on the Prosperity for America channel. Today we're going to take a look at the market conditions for looking for a new position in the United States in April of 2022. The way things turned out at the end of March, the unemployment rate in the United States declined to 3.6% from 3.8%. More than 431,000 new positions were filled. And going into the next month, things look really good. An interesting stat that makes things different than normal is that 20% of those employed in the United States are currently looking for a position as opposed to 8 to 10%. So that means right at this moment, there's 15 to 30 million Americans considering looking for a new position. At this point in time, we strongly recommend that you take a good look at it because at this moment, the market conditions for finding a new position are really strong. And right now, we're going to take a look at some of the numbers behind that thought. First of all, the national unemployment rate, like I said, is 3.6%. But over the last month, the amount of people seeking unemployment claims has stayed solidly in the low 200,000s, somewhere between 200 and 220,000 people filing for a new unemployment claim each week. Historically, recessions usually at our population size, the amount of weekly unemployment claims need to be higher than 325,000. As you probably remember, during this past recession triggered by the pandemic, we hit some incredibly high numbers, 800,000, sometimes even 1 million people being unemployed in a week in the United States. Those are numbers that we probably won't see again until hopefully never another pandemic occurs. But under current market conditions, the weekly unemployment claims have been solidly below 300,000 now for 6 months. And what we want to keep a lookout for as we evaluate whether or not it's a good moment to change positions is that as you see that weekly unemployment rate creep up towards 300,000, 325,000, you know that the economy might be switching gears. And so along with changing unemployment or changing positions, you want to look at the inflation rate. The inflation rate for this past year in the United States was 5.6%. But the first 3 months of this year, it's looking like trending more almost like at 8%, 7.7% as for March. And it's getting to be a concern, all right? And the reason for that concern is that historically, a recession happens 18 to 24 months after we've gone over 5% inflation most of the time, all right? You never could say all the time in economics. It's a numbers way of looking at things. But just give you a historical backdrop, the average unemployment rate in the United States since 1948 has been 5.75%. So we're below that still currently. And the average recession occurred, there was 11 recessions in the last 75 years. And so that's one roughly every 7 years. Something that we could look forward to and look out for is when inflation is higher than 5%, there are recessions more often because the economy becomes more volatile. For example, between 1969 and 1981, when inflation peaked and averaged in that time frame between 7 and 14%, there were 4 recessions in only 12 years. All right, hopefully we won't revisit that and we have time to make some economic adjustments. But today we're not at all, and we're not at all going to be talking about what adjustments should be made. What we're talking about with this monthly update is what does it look like right now for you to change positions here in the United States. Looking at the different types of people looking for positions, of people with 4-year degrees, the unemployment rate is 3.1%. People with that are 4-year degreed engineers, for example, the unemployment rate is only 1.9%. When you change positions, it is a way that you could help keep yourself pace with inflation, because, like, for example, the last year, the average raise in income for somebody that's employed in the United States, it was between 3 and 3.2%. But for example, the average raise for an engineer was 5.6%. All right. So obviously, if the inflation rate is 5.6% and the raise you got last year is 5.6%, you're keeping pace. But one of the ways that a recession gets triggered by inflation is a lot of Americans who got a 3.2% raise last year lost 2.4% last year and they still got a raise. So generally speaking, what we want to do when it comes to looking for a new position is the odds of you finding a better position are always higher when there's more jobs open. So right now, there are currently 11.3 million jobs being advertised in the United States. And that's significant in the sense that people paid to run those ads. So those are not projections. That is 11.3 million jobs are being advertised at this moment in the United States. And there are currently only 5.95 million people looking for work that are unemployed. So what it means is that we probably will see over the next 3 to 6 months the unemployment rate continue to decline. With 11.3 million job openings, probably only a third of those will get filled over the next 6 months. That's just typically what happens statistically. And when we go into look at that in a little deeper fashion, the unemployment rate, if we fill 3 million jobs, that's divided by 6, that's 500,000 jobs, right? A month. Last month we did 431,000. In other words, so what we're saying is for the time being, that looks to be solid, all right? That we should be somewhere in that. And that doesn't mean that one month we won't hit 220 and then the next month 560. We're talking averages here. So, but as you look at these things, the person who's currently getting a raise of 3.2% in their current job, your expectation for what you would probably want to consider as far as an increase in your salary to change positions, a good theory is if it's a local position, meaning you're not moving from one state to another, is double the inflation rate. So if the inflation rate was 5.6% last year, all right, then you might be looking for 11.2% increase on average to change jobs. Now that's a little bit skewed because for a lot of folks in the United States, the inflation rate increase that they got was 3 to 3.2%. So somewhere between 6 and 10% income raise to change positions is probably in line. If you're above that, you know, you want to be careful with that, because the higher you go in on a new job, if you talk the numbers up, you also, with a recession looming, you might be the first person laid off because you maybe bargained for more money. Not saying not to try, I'm just simply saying that the logical expectation would be for an increase to change position between 6 and 12% to change jobs when you're going local to local. It's roughly double the inflation rate. For people moving from one state to another, I would say triple. So, because obviously you got to move, you're uprooting your life, all that kind of stuff. So, all in all, this is a good time to look at changing positions, and we still recommend that if you feel that you're not happy or you could make more money or maybe have more career advancement in a new position, this is a good time to really do that if you feel that you're in a position that you need to improve on. So appreciate you tuning in to the Prosperity for America channel. I'm Greg Schmidt. We'll be doing this every month, and please subscribe if you like, because that way you won't miss these monthly updates. We also do updates on how to interview for certain types of positions. In other words, instead of a general update on how to look for a position, how to interview more effectively, if you're a chemical engineer, we might just offer a specific video on how how to interview more effectively as a chemical engineer. So have a great day. Thanks for tuning in.